country. If you're listening in the Volta region, this is OFM 92.5, the Gban FM 102.5. It's also picking the bulletin live in Tamale. We are live on Radio 192.1 in the Upper West region. We are live on Radio Power 96 in Spain, and around the world you can join us on classfmonline.com. Our top stories this afternoon. Gold Board CEO Sammy Gyamfi rejects claims that the board caused the Bank of Ghana $1.7 billion loss under the domestic gold purchase program.
The losses reported to have been incurred by the Bank of Ghana under the domestic gold purchase program. I challenge Afenyo Markin to point to any page, paragraph, sentence, phrase, or punctuation mark in the said reference reports of the IMF.
Also coming up this afternoon, Chairman Wuntumi's bail bid hit another hurdle as Accra High Court adjourns hearing to October 15. We're live with our court correspondent for the latest on this development. Also coming up, Minister of Roads and Highways charges Maripoma Enterprise Limited to complete the Tema Motorway project by 2027 to spare commuters the prolonged time, that's travel time on critical stretch.
It appears you have done about 10% extra work since we were here the last time, and the main bridge not far from where we are standing has also been.
And some business news this afternoon. Government pays 10.82 billion Ghana cedis domestic debt exchange program coupon to bondholders. And in some news beyond the borders of Ghana this afternoon, Liberia agrees to accept 1,200 foreign deportees from the United States. You want to stay with us for details of these stories, including some others coming up shortly. And thank you very much for your time with us here on 12 Live on Class 91.3 FM. My name is Charles Akrofi, and this afternoon I'm here with
Veronica Amadei.
Now, former Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Bernard Ntwibu-Isiakun, popularly known as Chairman Wuntumi, will have to wait a little longer to know the fate of his bail application as the High Court has adjourned the hearing to October 15. The adjournment followed the failure of Chairman Wuntumi, who is currently serving a 20-year jail term for illegal mining, and his lawyers to appear before the court for the hearing. His legal team challenged the conviction and sentence and is seeking bail for him while the appeal process is ongoing. The bail application is therefore separate from the substantive appeal as the immediate request before the court for Wuntumi to be released from custody pending the final determination of the appeal. Let's get onto the phone lines now and speak to our court correspondent, Mamia Babrio, for the latest and on this development, even as we understand that court has adjourned the sitting to October 15. What really accounts for this? Mamia Babrio shortly will join us for some conversation in that regard. But as and when we get her, we'll bring her onto the program and have a conversation with her. But for now, let's turn our attention to some other stories. Veronica.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Gold Board, Sammy Gyamfi, has rejected claims that Gold Board was responsible for the Bank of Ghana's reported $1.7 billion loss under the domestic gold purchase program in 2025. It says the IMF report cited to support the allegation does not blame Gold Board for the loss and has challenged critics to identify any parts of the report that attributes the loss to the Gold Board. Speaking at the Presidency Government Accountability Series in Accra, Sammy Gyamfi said the IMF attributed the 2025 loss to the significant scaling up of the domestic gold board purchase program. He says the IMF also identified valuation effects, discounts on gold sold to off-takers, exchange rate losses, and fees paid to gold board as components of the reported loss.
Standard credit facility, in which the IMF reported that the Bank of Ghana recorded a loss of $1.7 billion under its domestic gold purchase program in 2025. Their position has now conveniently changed from the old false narrative that the gold board made losses to the new false narrative, which is that the gold board is responsible for losses incurred by the Bank of Ghana under the domestic gold purchase program. Ladies and gentlemen, nothing could be further from the truth. First, Nowhere in the under-referenced IMF reports is Gold Board accused by the IMF as having caused the losses reported to have been incurred by the Bank of Ghana under the domestic gold purchase program. I challenge Afenyo Markin to point to any page, paragraph, sentence, phrase, or punctuation mark in the said reference reports of the IMF where the Gold Board was accused by the IMF as the entity responsible for losses incurred by the Bank of Ghana. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, what the IMF report states is that Bank of Ghana incurred losses through the sale of gold under its domestic gold purchase program of $400 million in the year 2024 and $1.7 billion in the year 2025. And that the 2025 loss of $1.7 billion was as a result of, I'm quoting the IMF verbatim, the scaling up of the domestic gold purchase program, not incompetence or mismanagement. According to the IMF, that loss was as a result of the scaling up, the expansion of the program. The IMF also stated that these accounting losses partly reflect valuation effects. In particularizing what the IMF considers to be components of this loss, the IMF listed three things, which included fees paid to the Gold Board under the domestic gold purchase program. This is the true context within which the name of the Gold Board featured relative to losses under the DGPP in the other reference IMF reports. So I want to read the relevant portions of that report, because most of the times they come in the media and they say the IMF has said that Gold Board has made a loss of 1.7 billion. And nobody questions them to point out which part of the IMF report said that.
He also defended the board's financial performance, saying Gold Board recorded an operational surplus of 907 million cedis and an overall surplus of 5.4 billion cedis in 2025. He says the figures contained in the audited annual financial statement of Gold Board prepared and published by the Auditor General completely disprove claims that the board incurred losses from its gold trading operations.
Afenyo Markin and his followers alleged on several occasions on the floor of Parliament and in the media that the Gold Board made losses in its gold trade operations in the year 2025. This claim is a barefaced lie, which has been debunked time without number by the Gold Board. The audited annual reports and financial statements of the Gold Board for the year ended December 31st, 2025, prepared and published by the Auditor General of Ghana, discloses an operational surplus of 907 million Ghana cedis and an overall surplus of profit of 5.4 billion Ghana cedis. This is an incontrovertible fact. A copy of the annual report and financial statements of the Gold Board prepared and published by the Auditor General, not Sami Jemfi and the Gold Board. We don't audit ourselves. Now, if you check page 12 of this report, you will see that the Gold Board on its own, from its own operations, generated total revenue of close to 1 billion Ghana cedis and kept expenditure just around 109 million Ghana cedis. And so that is what we mean by operational profit or surplus of 907 million. It means that if you took all the revenue we generated as an organization and you deducted our expenditure from it, we had 907 million left. Now, because in the 2025 budget statement, government budgeted a revolving seed capital as its equity for the newly established Gold Board of 4.5 billion Ghana cedis, which monies hit our account on or about 30th of December 2025.
And now is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Gold Board, Sami Jemfi.
Now, government says it has paid 10.82 billion Ghana cedis to bondholders under the domestic debt exchange program, bringing the total amount paid to DDEP bondholders since 2025 to 41.36 billion Ghana cedis. The Finance Ministry in a statement said this was the third DDEP coupon payment to be made entirely in cash, adding that the obligation was settled in full and unscheduled. According to the statement, the payment will strengthen investor confidence, reduce Ghana's sovereign debt default risk, and reinforce the country's financial credibility. The latest payment follows an assurance by Finance Minister Dr. Cassie Atuforsin during the 2026 media budget review in Parliament that government would honor the coupon payment due on August 18. Dr. Forson said the payment formed part of government's commitment to honoring its obligations under the domestic debt restructuring program. Let's get onto the phone lines and engage an economist. Mr. Kweku Osei joins us on the line. And good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for your time with us on 12 Live. First of all, government says that the latest 10.82 billion Ghana cedis DDEP payment, bringing total since 2025 to 41.36 billion, will strengthen investor confidence and reduce sovereign default risk. To what extent do these timely payments actually demonstrate that Ghana's debt restructuring is succeeding, and what other indicators should we be watching?
Okay, thanks very much for calling me. First of all, let's look at what the bond is. Then we look at the implication, then we look at the government assessment. Bond basically means long-term loan. So you borrow which goes beyond 1 year, then we say it is bond. When it is
Class 91.3 FM.
So once you borrow, you are under obligation to pay the bondholders. Unfortunately, Ghana was having cash flow challenges. So as a result of that, government entered into domestic debt exchange program as a result of the cash flow challenge.
Hello, Mr. Tuya. Can you hear me?
Class 91.3 FM.
It appears we've lost Mr. Tuya on the line. He's an economist, and just even as he started to give us a bit of education as regards what the domestic debt exchange program is and the intent behind it and all of that, sometimes technical or logical challenges can actually hamper your work. But this is 12 Live here on Class 91.3 FM. We'll turn our attention to some other developments, and as and when we get him back on the lines, we'll go back to that story right here on the program. But Vero, what more do we have?
So this afternoon, the Minister of Roads and Highways, Governs Kwame Abuja, has tasked Maripoma Enterprise Limited to speed up work on the Tema motorway and complete the project within schedule. The project is a major road link connecting the Tema port to other parts of the country and is expected to ease congestion and reduce the long traveling time commuters endure on the stretch. The minister has urged the contractor to, among other measures, consider working 24 hours to effectively expedite the project, both day and night. Speaking during an inspection and assessment tour of some big push projects in the Greater Accra region, the minister said that although progress on the project has improved by 10%, he expects significantly more work to be done.
It appears you have done about 10% extra work since we were here the last time, and the main bridge not far from where we are standing has also been completed without any incidents. My fear actually has always been the risk to the public, because it's an intersection that is in use 24/7, and you actually completed it ahead of schedule and without any incident of the public. So I commend you for that. I also noticed an increase in activity on site. There's more activity on site. However, I want to encourage you to even increase that further. A project like this elsewhere will be done 24/7. There's no reason why you cannot work even more in the night than the day. So encouraging you to take advantage of the president's 24-hour economy to do more of the disruptive work in the night, and rather scale down during the day and make certain or dedicated lanes available for the public to use during the day. So that is very critical.
You had the Minister for Roads and Highways, Governs Kwame Abuja.
Let's take you to the Ashanti region now, and drivers in the Ashanti region have expressed concern over the rising cost of operating their vehicles, saying the transport fares approved by authorities do not adequately cover expenses such as fuel, vehicle maintenance, and other operational costs. This comes after the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly warned transport unions, station executives, and drivers against charging passengers unapproved fares in the Kumasi metropolis. The KMA says it has received reports of illegal fares being charged at various transport stations across the metropolis. The assembly has consequently indicated that it is enforcing task force or its enforcement task force will soon visit various transport unions and stations to ensure compliance with approved fares and other regulations.
Guys carry there. And yeah, I'm here to fuel. Cause what bano? Fuel na be. You told 60 cities. Say a blue be 80 cities. They say fast work apply be yan no na. They say akodi.
All of your for first part 5 cities. And I buy a petrol son. This is son. I don't mean 50 pesos. He says, well, 2 mark of bro, the first part again. And tell me, I did 50 pesos and also some of 5 cities. I told you, 5 cities. So, for no first part price, no. You see, I brought the agent, yes, I had my well, upon ultimately, we are 5 million, 4 million, upon your Yahi.
Well, so you heard some of the drivers there speaking in the Akan language, essentially saying that, well, fuel prices have gone up, and so it is important that they also reflect same in the transport fares. Let's connect to the phone lines and speak to the head of transport department for the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, Randy Wilson. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for your time with us on 12 Live. Sir. Right. So the drivers say that, well, fuel prices have gone up, and in order to make up for the amount they spend in, maintaining the vehicle and what have you, they would have to increase the fares in the first place. You think what they are doing is still not justified?
Well, the lorry fare increment or decrease, it is not the prerogative of drivers to decide on it. Over the years, it is something that has been done in the country, where the Ministry of Transport, the transport operators, and other transport stakeholders come together to determine the amount of money, either to increase or to decrease it. Okay, so that is what happens. So regularly, they sit and decide on it. The drivers on their own or the unions on their own cannot just say the fuel prices are gone up or whatever it is.
Class 91.3 FM.
Prices. Other than that, anybody at all can just decide to do whatever they want in the country, and that cannot make the country governable.
And I'm sure the KMA would, from time to time, engage the various unions in that regard. What has been the conversation with the various unions, and what has been the position of leadership as far as the fare increments are concerned?
Well, just as I mentioned earlier on, KMA does not get involved when it comes to fixing lorry fares. The assembly does not do that. The lorry fare fixing is a nationwide exercise, and it is done by the Ministry of Transport. So when they finish, the operators are there, the other transport coordinating committee, and they have a where KMA has no role in it. Okay, no assembly is in there. But when they finish fixing it, then they bring it to us whether there's an increase or a decrease in the rate, and then we work with it.
Sir, you would also understand that
transport operators is something that we do almost every now and then. For the past 1 week, the whole of last week, we were even meeting the terminal managers and having discussions with them on their operations.
Okay.
So we engage them, but on lorry fare fix, and no, that is not a responsibility.
Right. Do I get a sense that you making the point that it is the transport ministry that determines lorry fares for these various unions?
in addition to the transport unions, the Transport Coordinating Council, other transport-related stakeholders, they are the ones that sit down to do this.
Okay. So when are we expecting an enforcement? You say that you'll be deploying your task force to ensure that people do not, or these drivers do not actually take the law into their own hands and increase fares, haphazardly, so to speak. When are we expecting an enforcement in that regard?
As we are speaking, if you could hear the noise, I just had to park and then respond to the. We went on rounds to inspect some of the places, and so enforcement has already started. The only thing is that there's a human face aspect to it, seeing to it that the various stations.
Class 91.3 FM.
If it goes beyond a certain age, maybe the mayor or the director will tell us, start arresting the people and then taking them through the process. This time, the enforcement, we are looking at prosecuting the offenders. And so we're going to go all the way out to prosecute and even record and then make it public for people to get to see that these people flouted these rules and these were the punishment that were meted out.
Class 91.3 FM.
All right, sir. Let me thank you for your time this afternoon, and then we'll monitor how things actually go in that part of the country. Many thanks for your time.
Right. Thank you so much.
So that's Randy Wilson. He's head of transport department for the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly. This is 12 Live here on Class 91.3 FM. Let's bring you some more stories now.
Another 300 Ghanaians are expected to be evacuated from South Africa as government intensifies efforts to bring home nationals affected by renewed xenophobic attacks and rising tensions targeting foreign nationals. The latest evacuation follows Monday's repatriation exercise, during which 80 Ghanaians were flown back as part of the government's second phase evacuation program. This is not the first evacuation exercise undertaken by government in response to concerns over the safety of Ghanaians in South Africa. The latest exercise forms part of a broader repatriation program launched earlier this year to assist Ghanaian nationals who feel threatened or are willing to return home amid reports of xenophobic attacks and the mistreatment of foreign nationals.
We have roughly about 300 Ghanaians who are still waiting to be evacuated back home. Issues that surrounded the whole evacuation has not subsided. In the interest of our nationals, the safety of our nationals, government is responsive to its responsibilities to protect its citizens wherever they find themselves in danger. And so that is in line with our core duty to protect our citizens abroad. Consultations behind closed doors have been had with the authorities of the South African government, both in Ghana and in South Africa. These are issues that are highly sensitive, and both countries are highly engaged in discussions on how matters surrounding these xenophobic attacks could be addressed without creating further tensions between our two countries.
Is this the last batch?
I cannot say for sure whether this is the last batch, but at least under the current what we call the second phase of evacuations, the number we are dealing with is about 1,000 Ghanaians, and so far what we have done is roughly 600 plus. So once this phase is completed, it's up to government to take a decision as to what will happen next.
You heard the Director of Information and Public Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Francis Bogla.
Now, let's bring you some other stories now. And there's a second leg to your story. And tell you what. So, Bogla says that, Ghana's High Commissioner to South Africa has fast-tracked efforts to ensure that Ghanaians who remain in the country are kept safe and heightened security checks and continued monitoring of areas where Ghanaian nationals are located. Take a listen to him.
For now, this is supposed to be edging towards this of the exercise.
I'm sure there are others who have no intention of coming back to the country. Any conversation with the embassy in South Africa?
Oh yes, we this is a voluntary exercise.
Yeah.
Those who have voluntarily opted to come are those who have been dealt with. Under the circumstances, government will still remains very open and has advised our citizens in South Africa to keep close contact with the mission anytime they feel under threat. And so our High Commission there is very, very much alert and willing to take responsibility for any life that will be in danger.
You heard Francis Bogla. This is 12 Live on Class 91.3 FM. Now, the La Nkwanta Municipal Assembly is set to intensify its crackdown on traders using bleaching agents to artificially ripen unripe plantain for sale to the public. The move follows an operation by the Assembly's Environmental Health Unit at the Medina Market, where some traders were found using bleaching agents to alter the appearance of unripe plantain. The Food and Drugs Authority has also warned against the practice, cautioning offenders that they could face drastic action. Speaking to Class News, Municipal Chief Executive Alhaji Faila Ibrahim said some individuals allegedly involved have already been arrested. He said the Assembly, in collaboration with the Ghana Police Service and other security agencies, will soon undertake a comprehensive operation to rid the market of the practice.
In fact, the chemical that they are using, we've gotten some of the chemical and they are testing the chemical. Others are also now on the run because one or two that were arrested, in fact, I think they were on bail. I'm yet to be told, but they will appear in courts, and the courts will take its course. Because when you are giving out such chemical, or you are using such chemical to get unripe plantain to be ripe, maybe just within 1 hour or 2 hours, I mean, it raises more alarm because I will not understand why the plantain or this should be ripe within 1 hour or 2 hours for me to consume. Meaning I'm consuming something different. So it is something worrying, and we are working around to get some of them. Because I'm told majority of them are even threatening the woman who made that remarks. I'm sending a word of caution through this medium. In fact, the woman who gave the information to the town hall meeting with the market traders, I'm appealing to each and every trader to remain safe, be in your corner, allow her to do her business. If you don't know and you tempt her, the law will take consequences.
And Alhaji Ibrahim Faila, it's the Municipal Chief Executive for the La Nkwanta Medina Municipal Assembly. Now, 200 graduates with disabilities are currently seeking, or who are seeking employment, are today picketing at the Jubilee House to demand government action following the exclusion from the latest Ghana Education Service recruitment exercise. The Coalition of Unemployed Graduates with Disabilities says the development is a clear indication of inadequate representation of persons with disability in recent public sector recruitment exercises, despite effort to provide authorities with the names of qualified graduates seeking employment. The coalition says it submitted a verified list of 200 qualified graduates with disabilities for consideration during the recent recruitment exercise conducted by the Ghana Education Service, but none of the individuals on the list was employed. The group argues that the situation raises serious concerns about the implementation of legal provisions intended to promote the inclusion of persons with disabilities in employment. The coalition is therefore demanding government action to ensure that qualified graduates with disabilities are given opportunities to secure jobs within the public sector. Convener of the coalition, Gilbert Boateng-Jari, says the group is officially calling on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that's Finance Ministry, to provide financial clearance to facilitate the recruitment and deployment of its members to various government institutions. And this is 12 Live here on Class 91.3 FM. Let's bring you some stories beyond the borders of Ghana now before we take leave of you this afternoon. And Liberia has agreed to accept up to 1,200 foreigners deported from the U.S. over the next year in one of the biggest deals agreed so far by Washington as it continues its clampdown on illegal migration. Such agreements with other countries have often involved people who are legally protected from returning to their own countries for reasons such as persecution. It is not clear if those coming to Liberia have protection orders. An initial group of 20 are due to land on Thursday and would be free to go when they wished or could apply for asylum. And none of the deportees were criminals or facing prosecution in the United States or Liberia or PIA, according to a statement released by the Liberian authorities in that regard. And of course, this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of 12 Live here on Class 91.3 FM. For more news, you want to check out classfmonline.com. And up next is going to be the afternoon business review with Nanajima and Prempe. My name is Charles Akrofi. Always a pleasure serving you together with
Veronica Amade.
Stay tuned to Class 91.3 FM. But remember, at 5 o'clock, there's going to be 5:05 with Kwame Ocho Jr. and the team. Good afternoon.
Class